Hello, everyone. I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha, and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm so grateful that you're listening, subscribing, and commenting. I appreciate the support. And if you're interested in supporting me further, you can do that by going to my Patreon or Ko-fi link. They're in the description below. In this one, I wanted to speak to you guys about one of the reasons why I became a minimalist. One of the main reasons why I think I'm a minimalist, and one of the main reasons I decided to go on this path. I've said this before to you guys that there are certain sects of society, certain types in the society that kind of gravitate towards minimalism. I know I've said this before that INFJs are one of them. If you know the MBTI type, you would be able to recognize that. But there's a lot of different people from a lot of different types that are able to live the minimalist life and are enamored with it because it's so beneficial in so many different ways. When I first started looking at a minimalist life, I started doing it because I was literally sick and tired of spending all of my money on basically crap that I didn't need. Yeah, basically it was just idiotic things that I accumulated because I was bored in the moment, and I was like, all right, let me alleviate my boredom by going online shopping. Or back in the day when there was not that much online shopping, let me do window shopping, right? And so, I had a good job at the moment. At that point in time, I made a lot of money. I was also bored because of the job, and I wasn't living my dream life. And so I decided that I would usually at the end of the workday, if it ended at a particular time, because I was doing shift work. Sometimes it ended at 8 in the morning, and obviously I wouldn't go shopping then. But sometimes it would end at 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and I'd be able to go to a mall and just window shop. Especially if it was a really long, stressful day and I had to do overtime and things like that, I'd be like, well, I deserve this, right? Isn't that the common refrain? I deserve this. And so I would go and window shop, and of course, almost always the window shopping ended up being actual real shopping, and I'd end up with 2 random bags of things, clothes mostly. Clothes and shoes was mostly what I focused on at that point in time. And I'd come back home with these 2 bags of clothing, and then I'd try to stuff it into my closet. I had a drawer chest, like a drawers, 3 drawers, big ones, huge one. And then I had a closet. And I would come back home and I'd try to fit all of those new clothes that I bought into the closet. And I'd realize that there was already a lot of clothes in there and shoes, and there was no space for the new clothes that I bought. And so I'd end up kind of being like, all right, maybe I could just throw some stuff out that I don't wear anymore, I don't like anymore. And a lot of times I'd look through my old stuff and realize that they still had tags on them. I still hadn't had the opportunity to wear that stuff because the work that I did at that point in time had a uniform. And so basically the only time I'd wear outside clothing or real clothing is when I went out, and that was maybe once a week, barely twice a week sometimes. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity to wear the hundreds of pieces of clothing that I had, and so a lot of them just sat there accumulating dust and just sitting there, sitting in my closet. And so I would go through a cleanse once a month or once every few months because there was just no space for the new stuff I bought. And I started realizing more and more that my closet is filled with stuff that I have never worn. And, I'd start looking at the amount of money I was spending on this stuff. A lot of it was cheap stuff. It was like $5 here, $6 there, $10 here or there. So it didn't really matter as much, but when you added it up, if I added up all of my closet, oh my God, that was hundreds of dollars of nonsensical spending, yeah? So eventually I was like, all right, what am I doing with my life, really? What am I doing? I have no money. At that point, I had no money saved up. I was spending all my money on stuff that I wasn't using, and I was giving away a lot of these tagged clothing to thrift stores and Variety Village, things like that, where they would just go to someone else and perhaps it would sit in their closet for a while and then be thrown out into garbage and create all of this pollution, because used clothing or clothing that's dumped creates a lot of pollution as well in the environment. And a lot of fast clothing is that's why they're prohibited or not liked, because of the fact that they create so much pollution. I didn't know that about that at that point in time. My main concern was that I did not like the fact that I was spending all of this money, which I spent so much of my time creating, and all of that time that I was working, it was very painful sometimes. It was a hard job, and I was meeting a lot of people. As an empath, it was really difficult on my body. It just wasn't the right environment for it, but I was making money, so I was like, all right, I'll just stick with it. And so a lot of that money was time, And I read a quote that said, all of that clutter used to be time, and all of that time used to be money. Or all that money used to be time. Sorry. All of that clutter used to be money, and all that money used to be time. And so I'm looking at that and I think to myself, it's so true. All of that time that I've spent on creating all this money, and then all of that money that I've spent on nonsense, it's just a burden in my life. All we have to do with all the stuff that we have is to take care of it all the time, taking care of it, making sure it's fine, cleaning it, washing it, fixing it, things like that, right? It's just such a lot of time spent on things that don't really matter that much. And so little by little, I started reducing the amount of money I spent on stuff that I didn't need. Of course, clothes were the big one, and still is a big one. I still only wear, as you might know, 20% of our closet is worn by us, and 80% just sits there mostly. It just sits there and is never used. And it's absolutely true for me. No matter how much I shrink my closet, and I've shrunk it a lot over the years, there's still only 20% of the clothing that I wear all the time. And you guys have probably seen this shirt many times because I just wear this shirt all the time. It's like one of those staples. If I have nothing else that I want to wear, I'll just put on this shirt and a pair of pants and I'm done. And so 20% of my closet is only being used. 80% is just sitting there. No matter how big your closet is, pretty much the stats will apply to you as well, unless you have a very, very minimalist closet. And so I just reduced a lot of that stuff. Not only did I stop buying stuff, which is a big one, I only bought essentials like undies and bras and pajamas, things like that I would needed to replace on a monthly, or not monthly, but a yearly basis sometimes. And so I only bought those things, tried to obviously as much as possible. But I also stopped, I started giving away a lot of my stuff to thrift stores, and I made sure once I had given it away, I would not accumulate more. Yeah, it was very much important to me that if I bought in any new item, that I gave away something as well, so that there was always a equal benefit, right? It wasn't that I'm accumulating more than I already have. It's just an equal ratio. So giving away something, taking in something, and it had to be equal in quantity, in price, in value, whatever it might be. So that's how I started thinking, because of the fact that I was wasting so much of my money on that. Because of the fact that I became minimalist, I was able to save so much money and able to travel so much because I had the capacity to do it. Not only was I able to take time off, that I didn't worry about losing my job. I became less stressed about money in general. I was able to save a lot more, and I think that's the reason why I'm able to live this lifestyle right now as well, is because I don't have that many expenses. Now, right now, actually, I'm on a 1-year thing about not buying any clothes or shoes or electronics. Those 3 items are usually my arch nemesis. And so right now, from December 9th of last year, December 9th, 2019, I made this vow not to buy any new clothes, no new shoes, and no new electronics. And it's going pretty well, actually. Now that I'm on it, I don't even feel the need to buy anything really new. But I wanted to do this video because I realize that a lot of us are in the same boat, or perhaps we are minimalists already and we don't have to worry about it. But I do want to remind you of the quote over and over again. And whenever I think of it as well, whenever I'm in a shop and I'm like, oh, I'd love that, I'd love to buy that, I think to myself, all of that clutter used to be money, and all of that money used to be time. And I think to myself, if I buy less things, less nonsensical things. Now, some things are absolutely necessary. So I do get my massages regularly because they're important, and they're important for my body and for self-care. And I will buy delicious coconut water because it's good for me and makes me feel good. Or I'll go and buy delicious vegan food, even if it's expensive, because it's good for me. Things like that will matter to me. I do spend money on it. I don't think of it as clutter. But there's a lot of stuff in my room right now, even though I am an extreme minimalist, there's a lot of stuff I'm looking at right now where I'm like, why did I buy that? Why did I end up buying that? What's the point of it, right? And so I just want to remind you of that fact, is that if you want more freedom in your life, actually one of the best things you can do for yourself is to start thinking about minimalism, or just thinking about spending less money on shit, like spending less money on useless items, because a lot of those items will literally just sit there in your closet or on your shelves or in a random drawer somewhere, and you'll never look at it until you do a yearly cleanse of your apartment or your house, and you realize you have this huge 2 or 3 or 4 garbage bags of things you've never even used, or clothes or shoes that you never used. You just wore it once or twice and you have to get rid of it. And it's such a waste of your time, but also money. Yeah, money, time, both equals the same thing. If you want more time, and you want more money, then that's one of the best ways to do it. You want more freedom, that's again the best way to do it. So I'm not saying that you should never buy anything new for yourself. Of course not. That's not the reason we're here. Sometimes you just want something beautiful in your life and you buy it, and that's fine. And I've done that many times. But in general, remember that every single time you spend that money, a lot of times, if it's not necessary, it's just going to sit there wasting space, wasting time, wasting money. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it because that time and money is probably more important to you and will be better used somewhere else, somewhere in an experience format, or having dinner with your family, or bringing your mom to visit you where you are, or things like that, things that are really beautiful and more important than stuff sitting in your closet, right? So I hope this makes sense to you. Probably a lot of you are already there, and so you're like, yeah, I get it, I'm already there. Maybe you're not already there, and maybe you're thinking about it, and I do recommend that you try it for sure. It's one of the best things I did for myself, living a minimalist life. I am obviously not as minimalist as some people out there. I still have a lot of things, but I am more minimalist than I've ever been, and so I do really appreciate that movement towards more minimalism. If you have any questions about this, do ask me, comment below, and I shall do another video on it, because I do realize that this is a really interesting topic, at least to me. I find it fascinating. And so if you want me to do another video on it, please do let me know. And of course, if you want to support me further, you can do that by going to my Patreon or Ko-fi link there in the description below. I shall see you guys the next time around. Bye for now.